Hey guys, what's up? It's Vanessa. I'm going to be doing my August wrap up and also recommendations, so which books I really loved and recommend to you guys. If you're interested, please keep watching. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I just want to start off by saying thank you guys so much. I hit 100 subscribers today and I'm like, wow, am I famous? I think I'm famous. Okay, no. Anyways, I am doing my wrap up for August, the month of August. If you hear the rain, I hope you love it. It's like pouring outside. I don't have any author names in front of me, so unless I have a physical book, I'm not gonna be able to tell you who the author is unless I, for some reason, remember. But I will insert pictures of the books that I don't actually have physically. Let's go ahead and get started. The first book that I want to talk about that I read this month is Happily Ever After. All of the novellas from the selection. So if you've read the selection before, I read the selection last month. It's a trilogy about a girl who is competing to become queen. So it's kind of like a bachelor style book where it's like competing for romance. I don't know. Anyways, some of the stories I really liked, but some of them I just didn't care for. And I think anytime you have a collection of novellas or a collection of stories, it's kind of hard to rate it high because some are good and some are not good. But if you're a fan of the selection and you want to know more about these characters, I definitely would suggest reading Happily Ever After. I did give that book a 2 out of 5 stars, again, because there was some stories I just didn't really care for. Now these are like my 3-star reads. I want to start with Emma in the Night. So Emma in the Night is a thriller that follows 2 sisters. They both go missing and only one of them comes back. It just rubbed me the wrong way, I guess. I just wasn't as invested. I'm also a mood reader, so I think that when I was reading this, I was just kind of burnt out, and I remember I listened to the audiobook and I just wasn't as invested. I'm sure that if I gave it another chance, I might like it a little bit more, but for this time around, it really wasn't my favorite. The next book I want to talk about is The Unraveling of Cassidy Holmes by Alyssa R. Sloan. This is actually from my first ever book of the month box. I also gave this book a 3 stars. This follows Cassidy Holmes' story. She is a pop star who is in a girl band and she commits suicide, and it's kind of everybody's perspective trying to tell her story. Yeah, just to see like what it's like to be famous and why she committed suicide. The next book that I gave a 3-star rating to is this bad boy, Midnight Sun. It hurts my heart to give this a 3 out of 5 because I waited so long to read it. I think I do have a whole entire vlog of me reading it. When I first got it, I was so excited. And I mean, I'm glad I read it, I really am, but it really is a one and done. Like, I don't think I will ever read it again. For those of you who don't know, this book is just Twilight, but it's in Edward's perspective, and it's like 3 times the size of Twilight. My next book, that is a 3-star read that I almost don't even want to say out loud because I feel like this book is very popular on the side of BookTube that I'm on, is Radio Silence. And I say that because Kat from Paperback Dreams is one of the only booktubers that I watch or that I started watching, and she loves this book. It's her favorite book. Again, I'm a mood reader, so I don't think I read this at an appropriate time. I read this my first week back at work, and it was just, I was overwhelmed with so many things, so I just didn't connect to the characters. I didn't get sucked in like I like to get into books. So it just didn't hit me in the feels. Moving on to my 4-star reads. It's Percy Jackson, the first book in the series. I think it's The Lightning Thief. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I loved this book. I had so much fun reading it. I felt like there was so much adventure. Again, I have a reading blog for this book because I read it on my birthday weekend. I feel like the only thing I really have to compare to it is like Harry Potter, because they're same age, I guess, when these books are taking place. And Harry Potter, which I also loved, read earlier this year, I feel compared to Percy Jackson is such a serious book. It has such a serious tone. And then Percy Jackson is just like a child, and he is hilarious. He says really funny stuff. Like, I laugh throughout the whole book. I do have the rest of the series that I do plan to read at some point before the year is over. So the next book I want to talk about is Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I did also give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like this was a very important read. This book does deal with racism, but more specifically, it deals with colorism. Basically, we follow 2 women. It starts off when they're young. They're twins, and they are women of color. They are extremely light skinned. They live in a town where everyone has very light complexion, and they almost like run out anyone from the neighborhood who is not light skinned. So it goes through their life. One of the twins decides to marry a black man, have a baby who is dark skinned, and then the other one actually lives her life married to a white man and is considered white passing, where her friends don't actually know that she is a woman of color. So it's a very interesting read. I feel like the beginning of the book was kind of slow for me, but then once it got to current day and time, I was hooked. But I really did appreciate this book and all the conversations that I had, because I think it is very important. The next book I read is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This book was adorable. I loved it. It was a 4-star read for me. It's YA. We follow Lizzie Leidy. She is a young girl who is in high school. She is trying to go to a music school for college, and one of the scholarships that she applies for she doesn't get, so she needs to find another way to get there. And in her very small town, it is a big deal to win prom queen, and whoever wins prom queen gets a prize. So she has set her mind to become prom queen, and we're just like following along. It is contemporary fiction, and they talk so much about present day things like Beyonce and Cardi B and Hamilton, and I just like loved it. I ate this up. I'm pretty sure I read it in like a day, but this book was amazing. The next book that I want to talk about is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I actually just read this for Summerween, and I will, again, like, I'm just gonna link everything I did. It will all be down below, because otherwise it's just gonna be like card. But I read this for Summerween, and I really liked it. Like, it was really cool. I was not expecting the ending. It's about a girl, well, she's a nanny, and she is going to this house that has been restored and remodeled by this couple, and everything in the house is now, it's like a smart house, so everything has to do with technology. There's like iPads to turn on and off the lights, to open and close windows, things like that. So she moves into this house to nanny these little girls, and crazy stuff starts happening. So we're just trying to figure out what's going on. If you're into thrillers and haunted house vibes, like, totally check it out. Now we're getting into books that like I really love. These are still 4 out of 5 stars for me, but it's like so close to 5 we could taste it. Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I talked about this in depth. I did a full review of this again for Summerween. This book is a thriller, but it's also a horror. Again, we're following sisters and their like messed up life. Check it out. It's good, but it does have a lot of gross scenes in it, like where they just describe things and you're just like, oh, that's so sick. Like, I couldn't deal. It almost made me throw up. I don't think I like horror, but I think I love this book. Check it out. The Night Swim by Megan Golden. This was my other book of the month pick, and I loved this book so much. It's about a girl who runs a podcast, and she is going to this small town to cover a live case that is currently at trial, and it's a rape case. So she's trying to figure out what's happening in this case as it's unfolding before us. The only thing that made me not give it a 5-star is some of the clues came too easily to her. This book was so good. I was so hooked. My best friend and I decided to read it together. I read it before her because I'm a bad friend. But then she read it and we talked about it. She actually listened to the audiobook and it got her out of a reading slump. So if you're in a reading slump and you need a good thriller, this is the one. It is a court case thriller, so we do get to be in a courtroom, and podcast and small town and old case with new case. It has everything. Read this book. Check it out. Okay, moving on to my 5-star reads and like the books I recommend the most. Like if you want to read something, please read one of these books. So this month I read A Good Marriage and I was blown away when I read it, but now I don't know why. I don't remember, so maybe it wasn't a 5-star read. Like I still remember The Night Swim. I'll remember it forever. Maybe The Night Swim is a little bit higher than A Good Marriage. I don't know. A Good Marriage is also a courtroom thriller. In this case, we are following an actual lawyer. She actually gets a call from an old friend who is being charged with murder because his wife is dead. And we kind of get to unravel all of this. And it's one of those books where like everything just like comes together in the end. It was good. I liked it. I remember really liking it. The next book that I read, and I'm surprised that this was a 5-star read for me because it's a memoir. In the Dream House was so good. I listened to it on audio because I was taking a break from Midnight Sun because that book drained me and sucked the life out of me, and then this book gave me life again. It was so good. It was a really short audiobook. I want to say it was like 5 hours. It is a memoir, but it talked about the LGBT community and things that people go through. It talked about domestic violence, and it was so interesting to hear all of these facts that I just was like not aware of. So I feel like I learned a lot of things from it. I really felt for, I can't even remember what her name was, but I loved it. And then just the way that it's written, it's like small snippets, like short stories all put together, and it was so good, and it was narrated by the author. So if you have 5 hours that you just want to fill with good books, in the Dream House, read it. It is kind of vulgar, very vulgar, but it just added to it. Like, it was good. And then my second favorite book, maybe my tie for first favorite book that I read this month, was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. And I actually listened to this on audio, and I listened to it in the car with my husband, which was like, I just want him to love the things that I love, and I loved this book so much. It follows a young girl who is trying to get into slam poetry, but her family thinks that her priorities are messed up. So it's just paints the perfect picture of what it's like to grow up in like a Hispanic household. I don't know what other way to put it. I related to her so much. I was just like, yes, like we are the same person. My parents would say that to me. It is written in verse, so when you listen to it, it actually just sounds like slam poetry, and it was just like perfect. And then finally, my favorite book this month. I'm thinking of ending things. I read this for Summerween. It broke my brain. My brain is still in pieces. I love this book so much. I'm going to buy it because I rented it from my library and I have to give it back eventually. And while I was reading it, I just wanted to write in it, which I don't ever want to write in thrillers. Like, that's not something that I want to do. But it starts with really good conversation and it ends just like breaking your brain. So if you're going to read any book, by the way, it is a thriller. It's a thriller. And you want to be messed up, read this. I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. So yeah, that's my wrap up. I read 15 books. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you haven't already, please give this video a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for all of the love. Bye.